What is going on, you guys? My name is Russ, and thank you for tuning in to Trial 9 Films. Now, today we are going to be reviewing Last Night in Soho. Now, I know this movie came out in October of last year, but I just got the chance to see it, and let me tell you guys, if you get the chance to see this movie, go see it. It is phenomenal. Last Night in Soho is directed by Edgar Wright and is starring Thomasin McKenzie, Anya Taylor-Joy, and Matt Smith. The movie's about a fashion designer who's able to go back to the 1960s where she encounters an up-and-coming singer, but as with most things, everything is not as it seems. I want to start off by saying that the entire main cast is just amazing. Thomasin, Anya, and Matt all just completely bleed into their roles. But for me, Anya Taylor-Joy really steals the show. And oddly enough, her character doesn't have too many speaking lines. It's not like she's quiet the entire time, but she has significantly less speaking lines than Thomasin, which makes sense because Thomasin is the main character. But she still, with so little speaking lines, conveys all the emotion of elegance, innocence, fierceness, and eventually heartbreak. And I do want to say that Anya Taylor-Joy is very, very quickly becoming one of my favorite actresses. She's just a phenomenal talent that I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of her in more up-and-coming projects. The story is something memorable, unique, and heartbreaking, and I always really like it whenever a movie can come in with an original plot, an original story idea, and execute it really well to where it's still interesting, especially with the days of big franchises sort of reigning supreme over the box office nowadays. Now, I'm not going to lie, it took a good 20 minutes for me to really get into this movie, but when this movie had me hooked, it had me hooked for the entire time. It's full of heartbreak and twists and turns that really catch you off guard. And my interpretation of the movie is it tells a narrative of the harsh reality of show business and the entertainment industry from back in the 60s and how it's still pretty much the same nowadays. You experience the story through the eyes of an up-and-coming fashion designer who can kind of, I guess, time travel, but I wouldn't really call it time traveling, but she basically can go back to the 60s where she's seeing the world through the eyes of an up-and-coming singer. And they do a lot of cool visual stuff with her in a mirror and all this kind of stuff to where, like, the singer's a reflection of her. It's very cool looking, and I know I'm not explaining it the best, but the movie does a good job of explaining it, so just watch that if you're interested. This story serves as sort of a cautionary tale for the main character. She's witnessing what appears to be lavish and successful life of this up-and-coming singer, but the more she sees, the more terrified she becomes. I don't want to get too much into spoiler territory because if you haven't seen the movie, I really think you should watch it. But basically, if you like the sound of a time-traveling neon noir that takes you through twists and turns of heartbreak, mystery, and dead dreams, then this movie's for you. The setting of the movie is what made me fall in love at first with this movie. It's a very small-scale feel that takes place in Soho in present day in the 60s, and the two main settings are an old house and a nightclub. These places alone have so much story to tell and kind of are the crutches of the entire main plot. The entire set is so well designed that it allows you to sink into the idea of being in 1960s Soho in a believable way. There's never a moment where you're questioning what you're looking at. One thing I also love is the difference between modern day Soho and 1960s Soho. Modern day Soho is kind of dull and boring. It's not like in a bad way. But when you go back to the 60s, you're filled with dreamy, neon-filled visuals that really please the eye. You're seeing it through the main character's eyes, and she has this obsession and fascination with the 60s, so it makes sense that she would imagine the 60s looking like this. But it is truly eye-catching when they go back to the 60s, and it just looks absolutely beautiful. The visual imagery that is used in this movie is utter eye candy. Everything looks so pretty and colorful and elegant, and I truly enjoy it. The way this movie was shot is something that I will remember for a very long time. The visuals paired with the 60s jams that they use for the entire soundtrack of this movie is something to be experienced, in my opinion. The mix of the 60s music and the 60s visuals really allow you to just sink into this world And you even get some covers of 60s songs by Anya Taylor-Joy, which I had no clue she could sing, but let me tell you, this girl can fucking sing. And these songs have been on my playlist since I watched the movie. I've been listening to it. This is one of the best movie soundtracks I've ever heard. And the fact that they have a soundtrack that I just keep listening to and it keeps making me think of this movie is something. I don't know if it's intentional or genius on their part. I'm still thinking about their movie because I'm listening to the music from this movie. This movie really knows exactly how it wants you to feel, and it knows exactly how to make you feel those feelings. And I give a lot of that credit to Wright. His direction for this movie, you can tell he knew what he wanted to do, and everything just sort of turned out very, very clean and nice in a way that you don't feel confused watching this movie, even though the plot it can be pretty confusing at times. This movie was a sleeper hit for me. I remember seeing trailers and wanting to see the movie really badly, and just from the trailers alone, I knew I'd probably like it. It's kind of right up my alley, but I was not expecting to love it. I was sort of blown away and shocked when this movie was over. The movie from the trailers didn't look like anything too original or unique, but boy was I wrong. This is one of the most original stories that I've seen in a very long time. This movie has tons of crazy things like murder, time travel, ghost, heartbreak, revenge, and everything in between. But yet, the movie manages to wrap everything up in a nice little bow for you by the end of it. This movie doesn't seem like much at first glance, but it is a chilling, heartbreaking tale disguised with neon beauty about a girl who is chewed up and spit out by the very thing that she loves. And for that, I rate this movie a 91%. It's not perfect, but it is shockingly good, unique, and original. And I think it's a movie that no one really talks about. It doesn't get that much credit, but it does. It deserves the praise that I'm giving it and that other people should give it as well. It's an incredibly fascinating movie that I find myself revisiting in my head. And it deserves to be praised by everyone, not only for the visual thrills, but also for the plot that'll keep you on the edge of your seat, keep you guessing, and eventually break your heart. That is my review for Last Night in Soho. Like I said, 91% guys. And if you ever get the chance to check it out, please do so. It might be on streaming. I'm not sure. I just bought it on Vudu. But it's a movie that I was truly fascinated with, and I'd love to rewatch again. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. You know how to click like and subscribe if you want to do that. And see you on the next one. Thanks.